Can you believe it? Can you believe it? We made it. We're in Hobart. I can't believe we've actually managed to get to 5 tests, although touch wood, because this one still hasn't started. But Bharat, we made it to Hobart. Never thought it would happen.
I know, to the extent that I don't even have accommodation in Hobart. I'm in another town, as you know. But I still can't believe we are here. Just 6 days to go for this tour to end, for the Ashes to end. So I've not uncrossed my fingers yet. 5 more days of this, and then I just want to get home in one piece.
Absolutely. But in the meantime, we have been doing what you know we love to do, and that's watch the nets, because we are the Netty professors. Well, of course, down here in the nets, there has been no Joss Buttler because he's gone home, but there's kind of like the ghost of Joss Buttler.
Yeah, no, that's the hand, right?
That's the hand, right about there, I think. So he hasn't been here, walking wounded, and Johnny Bairstow has looked pretty uncomfortable, and Ben Stokes hasn't bowled. What have you made of them?
Yeah, I mean, Johnny Bairstow did have a long bat yesterday, but his right hand, if you remember, he was struck on the thumb, on his right thumb. The border man kept coming off the bat every time he struck the ball. He did seem in some distress, but he wasn't too focused on that though. He was still focused on the lengths that they were bowling to him, what he was doing at the bat, which is a good sign, which means that he will get through one more test match. I think the English guys have a break, at least these guys. As for Ben Stokes, he did get the support staff to bowl a few short of length deliveries to him. He just wanted to check out that side of his. If you remember, every time he played a cross-batted shot, he was clutching it. During the last test, he did not do it on this occasion, so that's a good sign, but he did not bowl yesterday. England are about to have a net, but I'm not expecting him to bowl, so there you go, he might play as a batter.
Yeah, and that thing with Johnny as well, when that Pat Cummins delivery pinged off his thumb, it actually chipped the bone at the the end of his thumb, which the amount of toughness involved. I mean, all I need to get is a little boo-boo and I'm done. So that was quite impressive, really, when it comes to toughing it out. Other things in the net, it's been a really interesting atmosphere down here, because as soon as we left Sydney, it has just felt a bit more relaxed. There is COVID down here, but when you walk down to Salamanca Place, you see the players, the match officials, various other people, and I have felt like that from the players as well. It feels like they're a little bit more relaxed, don't you think?
They definitely are. I mean, it's also the home stretch. This is it for them. 5 more days, just like we were saying. 5 days later, they can go back home. And the Australians do have a very busy schedule coming up, and we'll talk about that on another show. Compared to Sydney, where even we were just going from our rooms to the stadium and back, I wouldn't say exploring the pace a little more, but we are a little freer. And like you said, Mel, so are the players, and they just seem a little relaxed as well.
Yeah, they do. Now, Australia, well, Pat Cummins did say in his traditional captain's presser that they'd made the decision about Usman Khawaja coming in, and poor Marcus Harris. We knew he wasn't going to be played because he was batting with the bowlers, which is one sign, and then he was sat on an esky watching everyone else bat. So it was pretty clear that he was going to miss out. Usman Khawaja was going to come in. Scott Boland, they're going to give him right up until the morning of the test to sort of see how fit he is. But he did bowl a bit today. What did you think of him? I thought he looked all right.
He looked all right, and he looked all right with the bat as well. He came in for a very late bat when, of course, Smith and Manas hadn't left. So I thought that was a sign that he might play, but we are hearing that that's not confirmed yet. So Jai Richardson is still being looked at as an option. He was breathing fire like always in the nets yesterday. I didn't see him have a long bowl before the last 2 test matches, so that's a good sign for Jai Richardson. He's been battling a little niggle as well, as we know. And Marcus Harris reminded me of my childhood, Mel. I was the youngest kid in the apartment complex that I grew up in, and my brother was always the captain of the side. So I thought he'll have some influence. He clearly did not. So I used to be the kid not on the esky, but on the pavement, waiting for my turn once the match was over to get a hit.
Is he saying he's breathing fire, Jai? I hope that's not I hope that's not a symptom of COVID.
Oh God, I hope not. We still don't know how many more variants are out there. Speaking of breathing though, yesterday Hasib Hamid looked in some sort of discomfort. He was batting in the nets. Apparently he got a blow during the last test, which I can't recall, and he had iced it, and at one point he was wincing in pain, and more than him, Zach Crawley seemed extremely concerned. He kept telling him, mate, you're breathing very heavily. You're breathing very heavily. You should go get it checked. And I thought, it was one of those things where until then Hasib hadn't realized he was breathing too heavily, and after a point I think he just left the net by himself. I think Crawley had something to do with it.
What have you made of England and their constant batting woes? And we've watched so much of them batting throughout this series, so many long net sessions, and their frustrations that just won't go away. The talk, of course, is that Rory Burns is going to come in and replace Hasib Hamid. He hasn't looked more convincing, but then he never does look particularly convincing, that then sometimes he just goes out there and he gets those runs that you need.
Yeah, I mean, Rory Burns and Travis Head, I think, are right on top when it comes to the batters who look the worst in the nets. And imagine they were club mates at one point at T3 Gully. Imagine what those net sessions would have been like. So, yeah, I mean, Rory Burns has been working on his technique right after the Melbourne test. So it's been what, two and a half weeks now, and it looks like he's cut down on the fancy full trigger movements. I don't know how much. The focus is still on getting him to get into that position where the bat comes down straight. Interestingly enough, Joe Root continues to have those conversations with the coaches where he seems very comfortable with what he's doing. The coaches have a few ideas. I don't know whether he's buying into them. So it'll be interesting to see if he changes anything at all. The likes of Joe Root and David Malan, they are so pedantic with their batting as well. That's why in Joe Root's case, he's so successful. And in David Malan's case, he can get into a rut like he has after the first two test matches, especially against Nathan Lyon, as we've seen. So hopefully he breaks out of it and starts playing some shots.
Yeah, he's very hard on himself too. You can see that. He's one of the hardest on himself, I think, in the nets.
I have a story though, Mel. I didn't tell you this off air. I forgot to tell you this. I won't repeat what he said yesterday in the nets, but there's this one point he hit a shot, he wasn't happy, and he yelled out this cuss word, and there was this mother standing with her young son, and she hears it, and the first thing she does is she asks the kid, "Did you hear that, darling?" And he's like, "Yes." And she's like, "Can you forget it?" And he says, "I don't think I can." So, the perils of parenthood when you are watching the nets, I guess. I know nothing about it.
Well, it is their space.
Yeah.
We have to remember that. It's their space, even though the public can view sometimes. The thing is, he'd probably feel really awful about that. And if he'd realised, he would have apologised. So
I remember Dan Lawrence actually did apologise at the MCG because he could see the kid. Here, I think, David was blinded by a pillar or post, so he couldn't see the kid. It was really fascinating the way the kid said, "No, I don't think I can forget what he just said."
Oh dear, the corrupted minds from cricket. It's corrupted all of us.
Stay away from the cricket nets.
Stay away from the cricket nets. But we're not going to stay away from the cricket nets because we are the Netty professors, and we're just looking forward to getting through five days. 5 days.
Just pray for us, 5 more days, and get us home safe.
Yes, please. Until then, whatever. I don't know what I was going to say, but until then, goodbye.
The Ashes are done.